Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. This is another paid request. This time for Nate. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in any type of reviews, commentaries, re-reviews, topics, reactions, what have you, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for the 2008 film Delgo. Now, Delgo is one of those movies where I had heard and seen the cover of this film. I never bothered to watch it because it looked cheap as fuck. And it does look cheap as fuck, which is crazy because this supposedly had a $40 million budget. I'm sitting there going, where did it go? The making of this film would be a lot more interesting than the film I watched. That's really how it is with this. Because I guess the setup of the film was in '99 and the animation started in 2001, but this didn't get released till 2008. So if the animation started in 2001, that's 7 years later. 7 years until this finally got released. And I guess over 2,000 theaters, and it made jack shit. It made like $1 million on a 40-some million dollar budget. That's like a huge fucking bomb. Like one of the big bombs out there, especially animated wise. And one of the worst openings as well for a film that came out in over 2,000 theaters. That's really like the making of the... And look at this cast. Freddie Prinze Jr., Jennifer Love Hewitt, Kattan, Burt Reynolds, Kilmer, and Bancroft, Malcolm McDowell, Gossett Jr., Clarke Duncan. I'm like, what the fuck? How did they... I mean, maybe they're not A-list of Brad Pitt, Sandra Bullock, but that's a pretty damn recognizable cast to be. At least in this day and age when this came out. I'm like, what the fuck? The story isn't much. It's stuff you've seen a dozen and a dozen and a dozen times. Two races. One wants to conquer the other. There's a battle. The ones that wanted to conquer. There's a fight between the brother and the sister. The brother is the king. He's voiced by Gossett Jr., and the sister who wanted to conquer is our main bad guy, voiced by Anne Bancroft, who I believe she was Mrs. Robinson in The Graduate. And this was the last film she did before she passed away. And that race, they looked like... Remember Helena Bonham Carter in the Planet of the Apes remake by Tim Burton? The way she looks... They look a lot like this race. And then the other race, which is Delgo, voiced by Freddie Prinze Jr., is Comic Relief Buddy, voiced by Kattan. They look like kind of the Goombas in Super Mario Bros., the 1993 movie. Or they look a bit like the Lizard in the Amazing Spider-Man movie. Only if they have like these marking tattoos on them. I thought they both butt ugly. Like two butt ugly looking races. And like, okay, this Freddie Prinze Jr., you see his character as a little kid. His dad is played by Burt Reynolds. Which, rest in peace to Burt. And he did fine for what he had, but he's only in like 2 or 3 scenes voicing the dad. Because, spoilers, when he's a kid, the other race came in, killed his parents. He was left an orphan. He was raised by Clarke Duncan's character, who has the power to move stones, and is teaching Freddie Prinze Jr., who's the adult Delgo, how to use his power. But, of course, Delgo doesn't really know how to use it properly until the very end of the film. So, yeah, Clarke Duncan is his adoptive father, teacher. Burt Reynolds was his dad, who died long ago. Kattan is his buddy, who's really fucking annoying in this movie. Really irritating. He's screeching more than Gilbert Gottfried. Rest in peace, Gilbert. He's screeching more than him. Just irritating as hell. Jennifer Love Hewitt is the princess of the other species, the daughter of Louis Gossett Jr.'s character, whose mom, aka Louis Gossett Jr.'s wife, died from the bad guy, Anne Bancroft, who was exiled and they clipped her wings. And she wants revenge and she wants to take over. So she's working with a guy who's there, voiced by Malcolm McDowell from Clockwork Orange, who's part of the flying Planet of the Apes, Tim Burton looking. At least they look like the Helena Bonham Carter, I'll say that. I forget the name of the races, I apologize. But yeah, Jennifer Love Hewitt and Louis Gossett Jr. and Mark McDowell are part of that race, and they're kind of trying to figure out what to do next, and they don't want another war. But Dr. McDowell is working with the bad guy, and they want another war. So they're trying to fuck around both sides. So, hey, why don't we kidnap the princess, and we'll blame these two, Freddie Prinze Jr. and Kattan. They kidnap the princess. Oh, we're going to have a war together. One on the land is tired of being repressed. The other up top are tired of taking these too easily, so they don't get a fight. Jennifer Love Hewitt, Freddie Prinze Jr., they earlier in the film fall in love because she rescues him, she helps him up because he almost falls to his death. And the love story, I didn't really buy into. It's not that Freddie Prinze Jr., like the voice acting was that awful, but it's so cookie cutter. There's nothing that unique or different about it. And the animation is so fucking bad. Like, this animation looks cheap. It looks herky-jerky. It looks like one of those films that was a ripoff. Like, what was that? Remember? Maybe it's not as bad as Food Fight, or as bad as those animated films that ripped off Cars. But they were like straight to video cheap. But it going in that direction. It's just very clunky and herky-jerky looking. And also, again, the designs just look very awful and off-putting. And I'm like, how did this cost $40 million? In comparison, the 2007 CGI Ninja Turtle movie was cheaper than this movie. And you look how that movie looks. That movie looks really good. I may have issues with the film. The look is now one of them. It's a good looking movie, that 2007 TMNT movie. And I think that cost, what, 35 million? And this cost 40 million. How the fuck did this cost more than that, but that movie looks a lot better, tons better than this? Val Kilmer's in the film because he's a guard with all the winged creatures, and he's a gambler. He gambles too much, and he gets tricked and fucked over by Malcolm McDowell because Val Kilmer doesn't want to follow Malcolm McDowell's and the bad Anne Bancroft, the evil lady's plans. So Val Kilmer, Freddie Prinze Jr., Kattan get jailed. They're able to escape. They battle this one creature with these kind of lobster pincers things in this cave. You don't really get a sense much of the dialogue back and forth to really care about the characters. I will say it is a story that's trying to take itself seriously. There are stakes involved. There are people who die. So it's not just a goofy, kiddie cartoon. There are people that die. Again, Freddie Prinze Jr.'s parents die. Spoiler alert. Val Kilmer fights Dr. McDowell, and it seems like Val kills Dr. McDowell. And then there's an arrow going for Freddie Prinze, and Val Kilmer tastes the shit. Tastes the shit, yeah. Tastes the shit on his face. And then Freddie Prinze Jr. dies. Well, he is a shithead, so If you've seen some of Freddie Prinze Jr.'s interviews, Star Wars just for kids, you know he's a bit of a shithead, so I guess I was be thinking ahead of that, but... And then Val Kilmer takes a hit and he dies, but it's like... Val Kilmer's character here is like a lame version of Mad Mardigan from Willow. Like a very lame version of that. And you really, I mean, there's little, I don't know, just, the writing could have been done a lot better. You could have done a lot more character development, a lot less Chris Kattan. Chris Kattan did not need to be in this movie. He did not need an annoying sidekick comedic character. Let's say it just follows a lot of the same tropes. Two different worlds, a little bit of Romeo and Juliet. Obviously, they fall in love with each other. They get separated. Your lead getting framed for a crime, kind of like Aladdin did. The annoying sidekick. Even the bad guys have their own comedic characters. Eric Idle likes to talk a lot, and he has his bigger one that doesn't talk at all, just burps. It just follows a lot of the typical tropes that maybe you could look at some of the art design and some of the background visuals of the world. But if it was more beautifully animated, if it was more prettier, if the $40 million was more on the screen, I don't know if they paid, maybe that's $40 million went to the actors. Maybe that's where most of the budget went to, was the actors. I have to think the actors, maybe they thought this was going to be a bigger deal. So, hey, yeah, I'll do it. And then, I don't know when they record their voices, and then years and years it comes by, and then it finally comes out, and no one remembers a fucking thing about it. And you can easily see why. I mean, at least it's a short film. It's only 80-some minutes long. And the spoilers, when you get to the finale, it's pretty much, okay, they escaped. Like I said, they dealt with that creature in the cave. Val Kilmer fights about the McDowell. Like I said, all that stuff. Chris Kattan is riding this creature, is trying to get these other creatures to do a stampede. The Prinze finally gets to his own people and saying, listen, it was her, it wasn't these people all along. The bad lady's gotten all these other thugs and creatures to fight the Freddie Prinze Jr.'s people. Hey, Jennifer Love Hewitt goes, let's help them, come in, carry them off, fly them to safety, while the stampede takes care of the other pieces of trash. Freddie Prinze Jr. used a bit of his magic stone thing, moving the rocks to fuck up this big guy who can't discombobulate, smash into the pillars. You have the bit where the lady's ready to fall to her death, but Freddie Prinze Jr. learned a lesson, walked into after school special, picks her up, and then lo and behold, she cold cocks him. I guess you can't have your lead characters kill the evil lady, so she dies because things are shaking. She falls into the chasm. And then Malcolm McDowell isn't even truly dead. He comes back, but then he throws something. But Chris Kattan finally got his slingshot working and saves Freddie Prinze Jr. Freddie Prinze and the girl kiss. Movie's over. It just seems like it's rushing a lot of plot points. It feels a bit unfinished with the way the story... Like, you have this big exposition dump in like the first 5-10 minutes of here's this race. They came, supposed to be peaceful. Then Bancroft says we want a war. Then people died, and then blah blah blah. And then there's peace again. And it's like really trying to rush through this, and there's nothing. with the characters, dialogue, there's no witty dialogue, there's no clever dialogue. The visuals are very low res, as in the low production value in terms of animation, especially for a $40 million budget. It looks low rent. And I mean, from whether you want to say Avatar to all sorts of other stuff, there's just so many other films that bigger budgets, bigger production values, that look better than this movie. And the story points, again, it's all typical tropes you've seen done a million times. I guess if you looked at a trailer and you just liked the way these characters are designed or the way the world is designed, which, I mean, maybe it's funny at the end credits they'll show like they show some of the artwork storyboards. They look better in that. I'm sitting there going, you know, if this was animated like the 80s film Heavy Metal, and you stuck to like these drawings, like this style, maybe it would be actually a better looking movie. But then you still have a very blasé, typical, by the number script. An annoying Chris Kattan. He was irritating as fuck in this movie. Screeching every 5 minutes when he was on screen. Oh my god, there's a spider! Oh my god, I think the spider's in my pants! Can you be in your mouth so you shut up? Not much in terms of development. Didn't really buy the love story between Freddie and Jennifer Love Hewitt because it happened so quick and so fast. And just cheap looking, forgettable flick. At least to me. So with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye bye.